Hey everybody! Today I'm just going to be by myself, and I picked the topic of what is my vibration and how do I use it to manifest things. So there's actually quite a lot here, so we'll see what we get into. So my name is Chelsea, and this is Creation Soup. So I need a jingle if anybody is interested in helping me to learn the technology of video mixing and getting some music on there, because I'm just not quite there yet. I'm kind of an old lady when it comes to technology, so just gonna put that out there. So if you're out there. So if you don't already know me, I'm a Reiki master, clairvoyant person, mystic, weirdo, an alien in a human body, trying to navigate this strange plane of existence that has duality, light and dark, and all the ingredients, like I said, that through pain and heartache and beauty, we get to mix it all together, start over as many times as we want, every few months, every few days, making a new soup and trying to have some fun with it. So that's what this podcast is about. We talk about everything spiritual, metaphysical, everything under the sun that makes the world go round. So what is vibration? I kind of want to get back to basics today, because we've kind of gone into some deep end topics, and I think we ought to get back to basics so we know where to start. So we are all made up of energy. That's where I like to start. The sun, all the plants and animals, our bodies, the chakras that are inside our bodies, which I believe to be emanating our bodies. I don't think our bodies have chakras within. I think the chakras are actually kind of projecting our bodies like a 3D physical flesh hologram. I'm going to giggle a lot to myself today, I betcha. So what is your vibration? Your vibration is made up of so many things. Your vibration is the energetic resonance that you are projecting from your chakras out into the world, and those are what determine what comes back to you as far as experiences and how your body reacts, as far as wellness or illness. Your vibration can determine what your interactions with other people are going to be, and it's basically the resonance that tells the matrix of the world what to bring back to you. So it's your interface between yourself and what you're creating in the world. So I think there's 3 important things to note when we're talking about vibration, and we could break the human experience and even the human self into like probably a dozen different energetic bodies, but I think we'll just focus on these 3 for now. So your higher self would be all of it kind of together at the top. The human self, which has its own layers, and then the lower self, which is the shadow self, which is the part of us that we're not really aware of, and I think that goes in layers too. We might be a little bit aware of maybe the layer on top, and the further it goes down into the shadow, we don't even know that it's there. But we can see that it's acting in our life because of the negative patterns that we see that keep coming back to us. So we can go into all 3 of these and find out what they mean. So the human self, which some people call this different things and have different definitions for it, but I think The ego is the human self, and that's kind of the interaction that we have with the physical world. It's kind of our computer program that we have, and we can go back into our childhood too to see what software, I guess, is in there. What software has been automatically downloaded with our genetics, and what software has been given to us by our parents, and experiences from when we were little. Because good and bad, those things set our belief systems up, and those things contribute to parts of the software that we're running as we're going throughout the world, because it adds to our energy, or leaves holes there and wounds, and those things show up too. So taking a look at the world and your experiences of it can really give you a good idea of what's going on in your vibration. Esther Hicks talks a lot about this. Thoughts are things. What you think about manifests. And if you notice different patterns in your life, good or bad, you'll be able to get more of an idea of what's going on internally in the energetic system. And you'll be able to manipulate, not in a bad way, manipulate for the better, what you're able to do with those things. And you'll be able to notice in real time if it's working or not, or if you have more work to do and more tinkering to do. So we have the human self, the higher self, and then the shadow self, which is it's below that, the waterline, where you have a hard time accessing. And I don't think the ego is good or bad. Some people have a negative connotation of the ego, thinking, oh, it's a selfish, you're full of ego, you're full of selfishness, you're greedy, but I think the ego isn't good or bad. I think the ego is whatever you've made it out to be. If you've done a lot of work on yourself, I think your ego can be really aligned. And you can also sometimes go into a spiritual ego too, which I think a lot of us have dealt with, where you either feel higher than or lower than people. I think ego can be in that narcissism, or the self-hatred, or the self-loathing, where you put yourself below. I think they're on the same vibration in that way too, where, if you go into one or the other, it doesn't really matter how it comes out. It's the same thing. It's, we're all the same. We all have the same value. And when you put yourself below, you're in that separation. I like to use my emotions as a gauge to find out how I'm doing with my vibration. My emotions are kind of like a compass, and I use them in a way to do divination too. When I check in with a situation, I can feel into those emotions and see if there's energy in a good way behind my actions, or if it feels kind of flat. And I use my emotions in that way as a compass. I think, and I don't remember who I heard this from, it may have been Esther Hicks, but when your human thoughts are aligned with your higher self, then you're going to have good emotions, and you're going to feel happy and content with what it is that you're doing, and you're going to feel this forward movement going throughout your life. And when your human self, you have thoughts that are not in alignment with your higher self, then you feel negative emotion. Then you feel out of alignment. You feel this ick. So when I'm finding negative patterns in my life, I have to go back and look into my ego, into my human self, and ask for a different perspective. Ask for a higher perspective on it. And a lot of times that will happen pretty quickly if you're open to it. Where am I thinking about this in a way that you don't agree with? You see it from a different, higher perspective. And I need your perspective on this. So I will sit there and get quiet with myself until that other perspective comes in, and I usually go, oh God, yeah, that was simple. I just needed to get out of my human perspective of it. So the higher self is that part of us that sneaks in here and talks to us so lovingly. The ego usually screams pretty loud. It could be good or bad, I suppose. I sometimes associate my kind of lizard brain being mean to me with my ego, even though it doesn't happen as much now as it used to, with those kind of ruminating thoughts of, you're not good enough, or I actually don't have a lot of that anymore, which is really nice. I've done a lot of shadow work. I actually have a case of the fuck-its at this point, where it's like, sometimes I'll have that, and you can't tell it to shut up. So your higher self is that eagle-eye view. It's the part of you that's on the other side of the veil. God knows where we are. We could be in a spaceship or another life or with Source. And it sees and watches you from an eagle-eye view. And it's that nice, calm voice that is reassuring. Usually the ego's a little louder, sometimes being nasty to you. But that higher self is what we're seeking. And we're also always bringing that information back down and into the human version of us and downloading new software for our human experience. We're trying to go up in vibration, and I suppose that's how it's done. But there's kind of a mix of going down too, where you have to go into the shadow by using some tools like the inner child work. I do a workshop where, if you're not familiar with shadow work, what it is going into those parts of you that you rejected as a child, or at any age, but it tends to have started there, and then the pattern goes on as you get older. So you can take a negative pattern that's happened in your life, and I like to break it down to how it feels as an energy signature. It seems to be the easiest way for me to do it. And so I will journal about whatever negative thing is happening in my life, and I will find those congruences where it keeps happening, and it feels the same. And I will follow them back one time to another, to the earliest one that I can remember. And sometimes you'll have a hard time with this, or you'll only get bits and pieces, but that's okay. You can meditate there and just get whatever you can and follow it back to that place where you felt vulnerable, where you felt hurt or taken advantage of or unsupported. 9 times out of 10, you're going to find it all the way back a long time ago. And you're going to be like, that's so weird, because it feels the same, even though what's showing up in my reality now is totally different. And you wouldn't have recognized that it's the same energy signature if you didn't do it in this way. So the point then is to take the information that you learned, and you don't have to dwell there. And that's why it's good to have a practitioner there with you, or a friend, or some. If you're good at pulling yourself out of a dark place, I guess it's okay to do on your own, but I wouldn't suggest it for the first couple when you do it. It's pretty heavy stuff going all the way back there and not getting stuck. Because the point isn't to go back and get stuck. It's not to drudge up the past. It's to see what you need in the now that was a wound from back then. So we don't want to stay there. We just want to recognize how you're feeling so that you can be supported and fill that gap, fill that hole for the now. Change the energy, because you've been carrying it with you this whole time, and change it in the now, even though it might be from a memory or a false belief from the past that's still active in the now. And some teachers think that, judging this stuff up is bad. I suppose you have to be careful with how deep you allow yourself to go. But for me, I found the deeper you go, the better. But it's more about presence. It's not about staying there. It's about being present with the painful things. Because presence with the painful things actually makes them change. And this is actually not a whole lot different than the work I do with the dark side too. If you're not familiar with some of the sessions I've done, maybe this isn't a topic for today, but demons and all the things that you see on the light side, just like angels, there's those same things in the darkness too. Those things all exist. All those religious and spiritual things that you hear about, those exist too. And those things are connected to your wounds as well. And the funny part is people think that they're actually bad. And the thing is, they're not. They're a messenger. They're a friend. They are hanging out kind of like misery loves company. They're hanging out because they think you want some company there. And they may be messing with your life too as a saboteur, in a way. Self-sabotaging. Yeah, so the dark side does exist, just like the painful parts of us exist. The angry parts, the vengeful parts, the greedy parts, the parts that just feel lonely and sad and wronged, and it makes you want to lash out. It's all the same. So these dark entities can hang around you if you have these energies in you. And you might think it's just you. You might think these dark thoughts or bullies in your head or whatever it is just how you are. And you could have some things from the other realms hanging around and kind of tormenting you a little bit, not realizing that the whole point is they're like your inner children. They're not, but they're other beings that are hurting just like that inner child of yours. And it's there to befriend you and steal your energy too, of course, because you're alive, and dark entities need energy to be able to exist. So it's kind of a win-win. You get a friend and they get to suck off your energy. Not really a friend, really, so yeah. But anyway, so we bring our presence into these painful places, and don't be afraid of the dark side, because we all have these things. They can't hurt you. They can just kind of drain you, make you depressed. So we bring our presence, and the lower entities and the wounds and the inner children, they instead go from what's presenting in your life as anger or whatever the pattern is that you're dealing with. You end up finding a little one from your past, or a version of you that didn't get what he or she needed. A very sad and lonely version that just needs you to be there. So then, once you can caretake that part of you, and you can mother that part of you, then that energy that was discordant in your field before, that was bringing experiences to you to get your attention, that's all it is this is a learning matrix, this world. It's a energetic hologram that you can feel and touch and taste. That is an energy matrix to get you to learn to be self-aware, and to learn to love better, and to learn to create, right? So it's supposed to be, when something bad happens, you go, oh, I created that. I want to create something better. I want to line up with people who treat me well. I want to line up with experiences that offer me abundance and excitement, instead of just going through the motions. You know, the oppressors in life are doing that for us. They make us want more. They make us want better. And when we don't follow the more and the better, then it feels bad, because we're supposed to keep doing more and better for ourselves and learning and getting rid of the things we don't need, getting rid of the false beliefs that life has to be a certain way, that life isn't magical, right? How cool is that? How cool is it that the world actually turned out to be as exciting and as magical as our little kids' selves hoped it would be? Anyway, so we talked about merging the higher self and the ego. When your ego and higher self are disconnected, that's what negative emotion is. Because your higher self is just blissed out all the time. Doesn't matter if you're having a terrible time, you've broke your leg, your higher self is like, yep, she's not going to die anyway, because here I am. We don't die. We just move on to a different place. This body is temporal, right? We age and, eventually we leave here and we go somewhere else. So the higher self is kind of guiding along, just like having a great time, knowing that, this is just a fun experience we're having. So it doesn't take it quite as seriously as we do as humans, thinking, we're going to get hurt and bad things are going to happen. Oh boy. Let's see. So I want to talk about honesty too as a spiritual practice. With this ascension, we are opening up our spiritual gifts. We are opening up telepathy and energy healing. And when we can get into the astral realm, I do believe, we don't know when this is going to happen, but I think after the ascension happens, that opens us up to actually experiencing the astral realm in the physical as well. The physical and the astral, I think, are going to merge. Because right now, everyday life for me is when I get in the zone and I can meditate, or I'm in a good place, it's almost there, but there's a bit of a veil still, where my imagination screen and my ability to create, it takes a little bit of time for the manifestation to get to you. Where in the astral, it's more instantaneous, almost like you can move things with your thoughts and you can create things just by thinking about it. So getting back to the honesty, I think honesty is a perfect way of flexing the intuitive muscle in that way, and proving to yourself and to the universe too that we're getting ready for telepathy. Because think about this. If all of a sudden it wasn't gradual, right? And we could just hear everybody's thoughts and everybody could hear your thoughts. Think about all the people we would piss off because we don't tell them what we actually think. We're agreeing and yeah, and thinking, oh, you're a son of a bitch. Don't tell me you don't do that sometimes. You're talking to someone and you just think this person is fucking nuts. But they hear you, right? So we can't get from where we are now to where we're going by not being more honest, because people can feel it, and the people who are sensitive too, they can feel when you're not being honest with them. And this, it can get you into trouble, but this is also, I think, one of the best ways to learn where we need to change our belief systems and our attitudes about people in life too. And it's a good putting your foot in your mouth situation where you get some humble pie, you get creation soup and you get humble pie. And I don't mind the humble pie, even though it's cringe. It tells you where your beliefs need to change, and it tells you where your energy needs to change, because if you are totally honest, this is like the quickest way, I think, to getting yourself in alignment with the people around you, no matter what it is.